I now want to go to Deborah Tellis. Now, she helps to host a Facebook page for Australians overseas trying to get home. So I want to find out from her how people are feeling about this in India. Thanks for joining us, Deb. Congratulations on your work you're doing. I think it's fantastic that you're looking to help Australians get the latest information, stay in touch with each other and find out how they can get home. Just how unfairly are we now treating Australians in India who want to get home?
Oh, it's heartbreaking, isn't it, to think that now, after we've only just had a couple of DFAT flights come in, and I was on one of them and went to Howard Springs, so I can speak from experience. The anxiety of living in limbo is just horrible. And now to have all those flights cancelled, now I'm sure there was about 7 flights due next month to fly out, and I have friends that have been booked on them that have had the call from DFAT to say, sorry, your flight's been cancelled. So, look, I understand what Dr. Clay is saying, and I agree with him. We need places like Howard Springs. So what I don't understand, Chris, is why are we trying to go for zero COVID in quarantine? Because quarantine is for people who come from infected areas to stay for 2 weeks, safe, out of the way of the community, safe from the frontline workers because there's no contact, safe from other travellers.
Well, this is the point. This is the point. They're using the example of Perth over the last few days. There were just 2 infections out of the quarantine. Now, I think 3 in the end. But they got on top of it in a way that didn't even need a lockdown. And New South Wales has taken in 2/3 of all the Australians, tens upon tens, over actually hundreds of thousands of Australians from overseas, lots of them infected with COVID, and there've been the occasional breakout and they've got on top of it without locking the joint down. We've managed this brilliantly as a country, so why do we turn our backs on Indians? Because they're going to come back at the same level of infections as we've already seen from the UK, Italy and the US.
I have no idea. I see that the cricketers are coming home and I see that Scott Morrison is sending in supplies to India. That means that flight is going to go home with who on it? That's my question. Who's coming home on that flight that's bringing in the supplies? I find it's extremely unfair, and I know the general consensus is that it is very unfair, and it feels like punishment to Australians that are stuck in India. Now, you have to understand also, Chris, that the government closed all commercial flights in March last year. So there are no commercial carriers flying Australians out of India.
Now, if these Australians in India get coronavirus, they will now obviously be at greater risk because they'll have poorer medical care in India than they're likely to get into Australia. But of course, they then add to India's problems because they're another person that India needs to look after. These are Australians. They have a right to come home.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more.
Well, what do you think we can do about it?
Howard Springs, I've heard, has a capacity of 3,000 people. If it can be cared for by the same way that the AUSMAT are dealing with the health over there, if we can have that level of care with 3,000 people coming into that facility, then everybody will be safe. But closing down flights, what's going to happen? Yes, there's medical that people can get while they're in India. I just hope it doesn't have to come down to body bags. That's the way people are going to come home from India.
What a grim way to look at it, but that's the reality. Thanks so much for joining us, Deborah. Good luck with your work.
Thanks, Chris.
Keep in touch.
Thank you.
Deborah Tellis there, who's a teacher, been a teacher abroad, and she's trying to keep Australians up to date with this. Now, here's the deal, right? When you go through hotel quarantine, coming back into Australia, many of you would have done this. I did this last year. Of course, the whole point of quarantine is you are treated as if you're infected. They assume that everyone's infected and you're kept away from contact with anybody else. That would be no different from anyone from India. Now, we know lots of people have come and have been infected. They've been treated in hospitals. We've had a few breakouts which we've contained. But we're saying that the risk is so high in India that we're not prepared to take that risk, even though we've taken it with hundreds of thousands of other Australians from Italy, from France, from Germany, from UK and from America. It worries me greatly about the different treatment here, and we'll hear more from this later in the program.